Let's be friends.
Have you not?
And here we go. And here we go. And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Ambassadorial Wing. Hope y'all are having a good Monday night. Hope y'all are having a good Labor Day weekend. And glad to be back with you all once again. Got a brand new review stream for y'all. And tonight we are picking back up where we started back about a week ago with the Hunger Games films. And tonight we will be discussing Hunger Games, Catching Fire. And want to let y'all know, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitter, hope y'all enjoyed the stream. Make sure you share this out. Make sure you repost this whatever way you want to do it on social media. Let everybody know that there is a place, there is a channel that is talking Hunger Games this evening. It's not all drama. It's not all, oh, everything's woke, everything sucks. Somewhere on the YouTube, somewhere on the internet, there is a place where we talk about the things we love. There is a place where we talk about the movies, the shows, the streaming series that we love, that we care about, that we enjoy. And this is the place, the Ambassadorial Wing. And as always, I, of course, am your host, the Ambassador. And make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you hit that little heart there. Next, a lot of people do as well, but whatever you call it by, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that repost. And tonight, we come to the middle chapter of the Hunger Games saga, trilogy, whatever. It was originally a trilogy, then they turned it into 4 movies like they were doing so often. And I am, of course, flying low because, and there's no problem with that. Mamma Bester she's not sick or per se. She's just dealing with a lot of aches and pains right now. So she's taking the night off. She'll be back with me here tomorrow night as we wrap up the Hunger Games series with, of course, Mockingjay parts 1 and 2. So I'm here. You're here. Let's have a good time. Let's discuss Hunger Games Catching Fire. As we start off, this was actually my introduction to the Hunger Games series because I didn't see the original Hunger Games when it came out back in 2012. I saw Catching Fire first. And a little funny story. I was in college at the time. I was in seminary specifically at the time, and we were on Thanksgiving break and everything. We got a week off, and I was like, you know what? I've got the time. I don't have a big workload of homework I have to do. I'll cover what I need to, and I'm gonna kick back a little bit. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna enjoy myself, and I'm gonna go see a couple movies. And at the time that year, Ender's Game, Thor: The Dark World, and Hunger Games Catching Fire were all in theaters. I was originally going to go see Thor: The Dark World, and I was going to see Ender's Game. Unfortunately, it left theaters before I got a chance, so I was like, you know what? Let's give this a shot. It was Jennifer Lawrence. I didn't really know a whole lot about her, but there were some other names in this I really liked. Of course, you got President Snow, you got Woody Harrelson as Hamish Abernathy, you've got Elizabeth Banks as Effie Trinket. You got a good young cast and everything. We got a bigger cast with this one. Of course, you got the introduction of some more characters. You got Joanna Mason. You got the very cocky, very swaggering Finnick Odair. And you have, of course, one of my favorite actors, Jeffrey Wright, as Beatty, or as him and his fellow Victor called Nuts and Bolts, Wyrus and Beatty. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. Granted, I have not read the books, and even to this day, I still haven't read the books. And it's not that I dislike reading books. It's just when you've been in school for almost 7-8 years, you get a little burnout on reading. So you're like, I'm just going to watch a movie and I'll be happy. And I walked out of Hunger Games, and I honestly was very, very, very happy. I was like, okay, I got to go back and rewatch this now. I got to go back and watch the first movie. And I was like, okay, now I see why everybody was going bonkers for the sequel, for why everybody was going nuts. Of course, I did remember Jennifer Lawrence from X-Men First Class, where she played a young Mystique. And I was like, Okay, I know her from X-Men. Let's see what she's got. And where the first movie, it had kind of a low budget feel. Catching Fire had a much bigger budget. Of course, they got some bigger names in there as well for the rest of the cast. Of course, you had Stanley Tucci returning as Caesar Flickerman. You of course had the now late the great Philip Seymour Hoffman as um, Plutarch Heavensby. Damn, I miss. Damn, I miss Philip Seymour Hoffman. I do. I miss him immensely. I remember the first movie I ever saw him in was, of course, Twister. And to the chat, whether you, and everybody that's watching out there, hello, good to see you all. And Lewis Cox, Lewis, good to see you, buddy. Glad you're here this evening. And CJ is good to see you too, buddy. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're having a good weekend. Hope you're having a good. I don't know if you all celebrate Labor Day up in Canada, but either way, hope you're having a good weekend, buddy. And glad you're here this evening. Hope you enjoy the stream. You never realize how much you miss an actor until they're gone. And Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of those actors that when he was gone, it hits you. It hits you hard. And I've seen my fair share of movies with Philip Seymour Hoffman. There's a few I haven't seen that I eventually am going to get around to. I know he was great in Capote, where he played the actor and the writer Truman Capote. I need to see that movie because I love Philip Seymour Hoffman that much. I did see him in Doubt with Meryl Streep, and I loved him in that. I actually saw that. Yeah, CJ, I'm glad you. He was the villain. I think it was in what Mission Impossible 3. I think he was the villain in that. And actually, that was one of the last Mission Impossible movies I did see. I After 3, it's not anything personal. I just wasn't interested in watching more of the Mission Impossible movies. I love the first one. Second one was okay, but the third one, that was the last one I actually went to see in theaters. The other ones I haven't even bothered. Yeah, Lewis, I thought so. But yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman as the new game maker, Plutarch Heavensby. That's just a kick-ass name, like everybody else's name in these movies and in these books. I'll say this for Suzanne Collins. She did a great job of coming up with the names for these characters. I mean, they're very old-fashioned, but at the same time, they ring. They have a ring to them. There's something iconic about them. I mean, you got Haymitch, you got Effie, you got Katniss, you've got oh, for heaven's sakes, I keep forgetting his name. You've got Gale. You've got. Oh, for heaven's sakes, what the hell is that kid's name? Peeta. I keep blanking on Peeta's name. Drives me nuts. I keep blanking on Peeta's name. And like I say, you get introduced to, and of course, you've got Primrose. You've got Katniss's little sister. But there was when I went in to see Catching Fire, I was kind of going in blind because I didn't really know what the shape of this world was. CJ, I would encourage you. I know if Madam Ambassador was here this evening, she would encourage you. Go back and read that first book. Oh, you've only read the first. CJ, go read Catching Fire. Go read Mockingjay because there's a lot in the books that they couldn't put into the movies. As I mentioned, Madam Ambassador was going to be here this evening, but for one, she's not feeling the best. She's got a lot of aches and pains. She's got, like me, she's got some health issues and everything. Nothing, we're not going to die or anything. We got some health issues that kind of knocks us on our asses. But she also wanted to do more research for Mockingjay for tomorrow night, so that's why she's not here. But I know if she was here, CJ, she would encourage you read the whole trilogy. Lewis, it's not chasing fire; it's catching fire. Just a little thing. It's actually actually it isn't in the title. I didn't put the title for this one. This is Catching Fire, Lewis. But anyway, regardless, I was going in blind for the first Hunger Games movie or the second Hunger Games movie because I didn't see the first one. I was aware that there was a book series, but I had never read it. Um, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I had seen some of the trailers. CJ, to kind of give you the short version, Mam Ambassador has two different types of arthritis, and at times it can be really difficult for her to get around, get moving, and everything. It can be rather painful, honestly. And I don't want this to turn to a medical report, but for those of you who know, those of you may know, like, where have you been, Ambassador? Why haven't you been streaming as much as you normally would have been? I think most of all, you know by now, I have a bad back, and I I every 3 or 4 months I get shots in my back. Um, and unfortunately, I went to get the shot in my back and everything. It's an epidural steroid shot. It's to numb the nerves in my lower back. Unfortunately, back in July, I had a complication due to that shot, and that complication has been ongoing. I'm not going to kick the bucket. I'm not going to croak or anything, but it's caused a lot of, it's caused several neurological issues, and we're still trying to figure out what exactly is wrong with me, and we'll get there eventually. And for those you might be asking, did the doctor cause this, or is this something else? No, the doctor did cause this. And yes, you know what that probably means. Yes, we are looking at filing a lawsuit against the doctor. But that's not why I'm here tonight. This isn't supposed to be an ambassador wing medical report, but just so you all know what's been going on. So, but anyway, and I also do want to say hello to the chat to a member of the Hack Crew from over on Orange Hat Reviews channel and everything. Riot Kitty, Riot, good to see you. Hey, Riot, I don't know if you've been on Twitter or X today, but I know you mentioned last night you love the Hunger Games movies. If you are boned up enough, you want to come in, you want to discuss Catching Fire with me. I did drop the link in our group chat on Twitter. So, but if you got homework, you got other things that you're dealing with, I'm glad to have you here either way, kiddo. So we'll get there, right? We'll get there. Just it's going to be a while. But anyway, back to Hunger Games, back to Catching Fire. I wasn't entirely sure what I was walking into. I knew it had Jennifer Lawrence. I knew it had this cast. I saw the trailers. I was like, okay, I can't see Ender's Game, so I'm going to go see this instead. And I was honestly sitting there like, holy crap, are they going to make it out of this? Holy crap, who's going to survive? Who isn't? Holy crap, what the hell is going on? And oh my gosh, Donald Sutherland is playing a rather villainous character by the name of President Cornelius, I think is Aurelius Snow, or President Snow is just everybody calls him. I'm like, you have that first, there's a lot of really good scenes. I can't remember the actor. That would be Woody Harrelson, CJ. That would be Woody Harrelson, who plays Hamish Abernathy. He played Tallahassee in Zombieland, and he played Tobias Beckett in Solo. And I know I released a short. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, kiddo. I thought I had the name right. Yeah, CJ, who doesn't like Woody Harrelson? I mean, he has had a career that's kind of peaked and valleyed, but you know what? Even when I say valley, it's just when he's gone inactive. It's not that he has done bad movies. He's done movies and he's been kind of off the spectrum. He's done movies and it's kind of like that. When I met him in this, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what to make of this guy. I mean, he's kind of an ass, but at the same time, he seems to have a good heart. And they kept referring back to the first games. I'm like, okay, I need to go. Depending on how this goes, I'm going to go watch the first Hunger Games movie. I eventually, obviously, for those who were here last time when me and my ambassador were talking about the first Hunger Games movie, I did eventually watch the first movie on Netflix, because I had a Netflix account at the time and they had streaming on there. I was like, okay, I'll just watch it there. And I like, this all makes sense now. So, and also to the chat, Price is Right Reviews. Price is good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you popping in this evening. Hope you're having a good Labor Day weekend. Anyway, the thing for me for this for catching fire, even though I was walking in somewhat blind. Well, I think for one thing, Riot, they are both bald, but and they look good bald, even though they did have a wig for Woody Harrelson for his part of Haymitch. I've got all the Hunger Games movies on DVD. I think we've got ours on Blu-ray, but we got a Blu-ray box set. Oh, okay. Yeah, John Hutcherson, the guy that plays Peter Malark. Thank you, CJ. I did not know that. So nice tip. Thank you, buddy. Even though I was walking in somewhat blind into this movie, I felt I had a sense of the scope of the world and what exactly was going on. This is somewhat of a future dystopian. I can't really say anything about what movies I watched Matrix 4 first. Oh, Riot, no. Why'd you do that to yourself? You don't watch Matrix Resurrections. You watch the first Matrix, and then you stop at Matrix Revolutions. You don't watch. Oh, Riot, no. Don't go watching bad movies. Let's see. I'll say this much: the whole lore and story of the Hunger Games, for me, the tyrannical government is probably the most incompetent dictatorship ever, in my view. But yeah, this. I don't know if I would necessarily call it incompetent, but I would say there were flaws in the system, most definitely. So, right, Kid. But yeah, the second movie does make sense if you watch the first one. Blame Right Kitty's dad. Oh, Right Kitty's dad. Why did you make her watch the first? Why did you make her watch the worst of the Matrix movies? You don't make her watch Matrix Resurrections. That movie was dreadful. If anyone ever tried to pull it off, everyone with a gun would slaughter the leadership. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's true, Lewis. That is very true. And, me and Mad Master, we were talking about this last time. This is. I'm not gonna say it's an incompetent dictatorship, but I will definitely say there are flaws within the dictatorship because all you need is the right person to galvanize everyone, and you got yourself a revolution on your hands. And obviously, Haymitch and Plutarch and the rest of the rebels were like, yeah, Katniss is our girl. Katniss is definitely our girl. Let's see. I told him I wouldn't understand what was going on because I hadn't watched the first three, and he put it in anyway. Oh, Ryan, I'm sorry. Ouch. But with Catching Fire, the thing the things that I enjoyed, I liked the character interactions between Haymitch and Katniss. I know some people may have an issue with Jennifer Lawrence nowadays, considering some of the things she's said on social media or in interviews or whatever. But honestly, I know I've said this. I'll say this. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't care about an actor or actress's personal politics. I can ignore that and look at their ability as an actor or actress. I don't care what their personal pronouns are. I don't care what their political leanings are. Can you act? Can you convince me the part that you're playing is believable? And can you entertain me? That to me is all I really give a rat's butt about. I don't. Most of you know me, whether you know me or whether you come across this. That's kind of what happened in the last two movies. Yeah, that's true, Lewis. I mean, anyway, as I was saying, most of you know me, or if you come across this and you don't know how I lean on certain things, I don't care about an actor or actress's personal politics. I don't particularly care about their social leanings. All I care about is, can you entertain me? I don't get bound up in the nonsense of being pissed off every time an actor or actress says or does something stupid that I might potentially disagree with. They are like you and I. They might have they most definitely have a bigger platform than you or I do. But beyond that, I don't care what a actor or actress has to say in terms of their social or political leanings. Entertain me. Leave it at that. Everything else, I don't care. Now, I will make one comment and then I'll get back on the topic of the night into the chat. Mr. Zach Larry. Zach, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you stopping in. Hope you've recovered from your long weekend and glad you're here, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, buddy. And I know this is a little bit of a rabbit hole to go down, but I want to say this because this has been in the news lately, at least entertainment news. And just kind of go to the point I'm making. Most of you have seen the clips that have been bouncing around on the internet, whether it's on YouTube, on X, on Zach, if you want to, we're doing Catching Fire tonight. We're not doing Mockingjay. Mockingjay's tomorrow night. So if you want to join, yeah, I can send you the link. So I just want to make sure you know everything so that you're not coming in blind. So, but yeah, I can definitely send you a link if you're up for it. So while I'm doing that, I'll get my point here. Most everybody has seen the clips going around from Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot about the new Snow White movie. And most everybody has seen the few stills that have come out regarding the production. How do I feel about what Rachel Zegler has said about the new live action remake of Snow White? Quite frankly, I'm not going to go see the new Snow White. I have pretty much checked out of any more of the Disney live action remakes. I did not even bother to go see The Little Mermaid. Me and Mam Ambassador we simply weren't interested in seeing it in theaters. And considering what she has said in regards to the remake of Snow White, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does not need to be remade. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a timeless classic that does not need a modern interpretation. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs doesn't need some snot-nosed little brat thinking that she knows better than half a dozen other people who have done better than she does in the entertainment industry. Now, the most recent movie I saw her in was Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods. And quite frankly, her part was pretty much forgettable. But she has dug herself a hole straight through to this Earth's core, and quite frankly, she could fall in it. I don't care about a live action remake of Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. If I want to watch Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, I'll pull out our Blu-ray copy and I'll pop it in our player and I'll watch that. After a while, I have simply checked out. She can say what she wants about anything else, but you don't disparage a movie that is a classic. It's simply not done. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the whole reason why Disney as a studio even freaking exists, because they pushed the envelope at the time. So, but anyway, enough of that rabbit hole. Let's get back on track and let's get back into Hunger Games Catching Fire. But if y'all are just one final point, if y'all are wondering, Ambassador, are you going to go see Snow White and Seven Dwarves? That would be a hell no. That would be an absolute hell no. Nope. Don't care. So, anyway, welcome a good friend to the channel. You know him, you love him. He's my friend. He's my brother from another mother, Mr. Zach Leary.
What is up, man?
Hey, Zach. Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you.
So, Catching Fire. Did you see it in theaters? Did you read the book? Did you see
I did see it in theaters. Yeah. I think I did see it in theaters.
Okay.
It was a while back, right? What is it? 2012?
2000. Nope. Catching Fire was 2013, 14-ish.
Yeah,
it was 13.
How do you feel about the idea of them recycling pretty much the same concept? It's similar to the first one in a lot of ways. I mean, they just like, do another Hunger Games, basically.
Well, that's kind of how the books go, from what I understand, at least with the first two. They do add in the wrinkle of the growing of the rebellion. You've got the whole game within a game in terms of what's going on inside the actual Hunger Game. You've got the added stakes of President Snow spying on Katniss and Gale. There's a lot going on in here beyond just the game itself. It's, like I just said, it's a game within a game. The thing for me was the introduction of the other victors. That was something I really, they had a lot of good actors come in for the other victors. Okay, that's fine, Zach. So, honestly, I was very intrigued because I had not seen the first movie, and like I said, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but the cast was the thing that drew me in, and the story was interesting. So, while you're getting switched over, I do want to say hello to Chad Ferris of Ferris Geeks World. Good to see you, buddy. So, I will bring up your comment here, Ferris, and obviously most of you know I don't ignore anybody's comment if I'm able to. I'm not sure if the Hunger Games X-Men prequel reboot or her performance from Silver Linings Playbook that garnered Jennifer Lawrence fame as an actress. Honestly, Ferris, I would say it's a combination of all three, because I did not see Silver Linings Playbook to any extent. I've never seen it. I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. It just doesn't sound like my thing. But the fact that she was in two fairly prominent, well-received franchises at the time. You had Hunger Games, you had the X-Men reboot series and everything with her as Mystique. She nailed both those parts as far as I'm concerned. And it showed that she had versatility as an actress. Yeah, she could do action. Yeah, she could do drama. She could do action/drama. And that for me was more than enough. So, I'll bring up your comment here, Lewis, 1 second. So, the new Snow White movie, okay, fine. Disney can make a new Snow White, sure. Okay, look, I did like the one with Kristen Stewart as Snow White. Yeah, I know it's new. It's a new take, which I kind of liked. Yeah, Lewis, I did see Snow White and the Huntsman, and I never saw the prequel that they did to it. I think it was called Snow White and the Huntsman, The Winter's War, but we do own it, and I may eventually get around to watching it. But there's a lot more. I think the thing I liked most about it was the characters were very engrossing. There was complexity to them. There was a lot of depth to them. I mean, Katniss and Gale and Peeta and that love triangle, and Snow and all his machinations and everything that he had going on. And of course, you got Plutarch, and you're not exactly sure how to read Plutarch. You don't know if he's necessarily everything that he seems to be, but by the end of the movie, you're like, oh crap, he actually is one of the good guys. Somehow or another, one of the rebels actually was able to infiltrate into the higher ranks of the government. I mean, for heaven's sakes, if Plutarch wanted to, he could have taken out Snow right then and there. Now, granted, he wasn't that dumb or anything, because he knew that if he tried to make any move towards Snow, he'd be dead in 10 seconds. But the thing about Catching Fire that I really enjoyed was, and I know I'm kind of working backwards, it was that last closing shot on Katniss's face when she realizes what Snow did to District 12, when Gale is sitting there in the infirmary or the hospital wing in District 13, and he tells her that the Capitol has completely and totally destroyed District 12, their home, everybody's homes, thousands dead, the whole shooting match. And you see that absolute pure rage on her face. And you're like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh shit, she's gonna go ape and she's gonna kill Snow. And of course, she doesn't, but we'll get to that tomorrow night when we get to that. So, Zach, any thoughts on anything I brought up, or what were your thoughts on Catching Fire?
Well, you have a bigger role with Snow. Can you hear me okay?
5x5, buddy. Yep, you're coming in clear.
Yeah, so you've got Snow showing up and kind of taking, the role of a primary villain when before he was kind of like almost a cameo. You see kind of the mechanisms of government. That's our villain, pretty much. But no, he's getting involved in this one, and you see that. I mean, the quarter quell is really a thing. Like, we got to kill this bitch. Basically,
yeah.
It's like, look, she's getting out of control. We've got to find a way to kill her without, outright assassinating her.
Yeah.
So this is what they decided to do. I will say, Plutarch, is that his name? Plutarch
Heavensby, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. Yeah,
I like that guy way better than the original game.
Game maker, Seneca Crane.
Yeah, dude, it was the beard. It's like, God, what the fuck was that?
I actually liked his beard. I did. I liked Seneca Crane's beard. I did, but it's a personal thing. The other thing I liked was the fact that Eve, all the victors, they get pulled in for the quarter quell, and they have the reaping the District 12, and you can see the heartbreak on Effie's face. You can absolutely see the heartbreak on her face. She's like, I don't want to do this, but if I do, I'm a dead woman. No, Ferris Mockingjay, I think it was Mockingjay Part 1 was his last acting credit before he passed. They used, I think,
He's
CGI for him. He's in like 2 or 3 scenes in Part 2, and then he doesn't appear again until like they have him in a holographic image where they're swearing in the new president. But at the beginning of Mockingjay, or I think it's either at the beginning or the end of Mockingjay, they say for our friend Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I think he died in between the releases of Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. But honestly, I mentioned this before you came in. The first time I ever saw Philip Seymour Hoffman in anything was in Twister, where he played Dusty, and I loved him as Dusty. I know Twister is a cheesy disaster movie from the 90s, but it's a guilty pleasure, and I absolutely love Dusty in that. And it was the first movie that really made me a fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman as an actor. So
he was the real fucking deal, man. He was great. The Master. You could go down the list. I mean, that guy was a great fucking actor.
The only movies I ever saw him in, and I mentioned this before you came in, I saw him in these, obviously. I saw him in Twister. I saw him in Doubt with Meryl Streep, where he plays a Catholic priest who gets accused of abusing a student at a Catholic school. I always want to see him in Truman and everything. You know, the semi biopic about Truman Capote, the writer slash actor. Because I heard
I
he was
own that movie. Yeah, I have it, but the voice, dude, I can't do 2 hours of that voice, man.
and it's
I just can't do it.
understandable. It's understandable. There's only one movie I've ever actually seen Truman Capote in, and it's called Murder by Death. It's kind of like a you've obviously I'm assuming you've seen Clue with
Yeah, of course.
okay. It's kind of similar to Clue, but different. They have parodies of all of it's kind of like a spoof or a parody of all of the big name mystery novel writers and their characters and everything, and they all get called to this really eccentric millionaire's mansion, and Truman Capote plays he plays this really off the wall character. I love him in it. Mother and Bastard actually introduced me to the movie years and years ago. But one of the many things about Catching Fire that I really appreciated was, and this is a character I absolutely hated. And if I had been in the same situation, I would have shot this SOB. I don't care if they shot me in return. It was the captain of the Peacemakers thread. I hated that prick. The one that whipped Gale, the one that Gale tackled when he was getting ready to beat that old woman, and Gale tackled him, and they captured him and strapped him to the whipping post, and he was just absolutely whipping him. And then I hated that asshole. Every time I watch that scene, I'm like, one bullet. I don't care if I get taken out, but one bullet and I blow your freaking brains out. I hated that guy. I did. I absolutely hated that character. So makes my blood boil. Let's see you do it in a fair fight, you ass. So, and Riot, you have a good night, kiddo, and I'll see you next weekend, kiddo. So, I don't know how you feel about that particular character, if you recall him or not, but
No, I don't even remember him.
It's after PETA and Katniss get back to the district, and Plutarch puts the idea in Snow's head to crack down on all the districts, particularly 12. And they send a whole group of peacekeepers, and they're burning the black market. They're pulling people out of their homes. And there's that one peacekeeper that's getting ready to hit that woman, and Gale tackles him. And the guy's like, he's a blowhard. If he didn't have a gun and a whip and that suit of armor, he'd have his ass beat every other day in any district. Real, just a real asshole. But that's just me. I don't like people who think that they're tougher than everybody else when if you put them in an alley with a bunch of people 10 times tougher than they are, and they start pissing their pants. And this guy, this piece of work, Captain Thread, or whatever his title was, he was a real ass.
Yeah, well, he was abusing his power. That's what it's all
that's
about.
That's what the peacemakers do. They abuse their power.
I think Madam Ambassador was talking about like the Nazis in relation to Snow's outfit. That's kind of the same thing, man. It's like you take a look at how the guards acted in Schindler's List or something like that. Pretty similar,
They acted with impunity. I mean, the thing that I found in one of the other aspects of Catching Fire I found interesting was all the other victors, and particularly when they're calling them up and everything. It's the night before the games get started, and they're coming out one right after another, and they are pissed. And Haymitch, Woody Harrelson's character, says to Katniss, "These victors are pissed. They're angry, and they're going to do anything and everything that they can to stop the games." And one of the really more outrageous reactions that we see, it's when Joanna Mason comes out on stage, and she actually they have to bleep her because obviously it's a PG-13 movie, but I think they also bleep her in the they would have bleeped her or censored her in the universe, and she says, "F you all and F anybody that had anything to do with this effing thing," because she's like, I was supposed to be able to live in peace, but now y'all want to pull me back in and try and kill me again. She's married to hell. Joanna is the one. It's after the tribute parade, and they're all in the elevator there, and she actually strips down naked because she hates her costume. I don't know if you remember that scene or not.
Yeah, I remember her. I think she's in Mockingjay too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's in she's not in she's a little bit she's in Mockingjay Part 1 a little bit, but she's in Mockingjay Part 2. She has a few more scenes and everything, but she's kind of off she's off screen for the majority of Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. You see more of her.
Well, I think they rescue her, right? At the beginning?
Yeah. Well, it's not at the beginning. It's toward the third act of Mockingjay Part 1, where they have the volunteer crew of soldiers from 13 go into the Capitol to rescue PETA and the other victors that survived the games or who got captured after Katniss shoots the arrow at the ceiling of the arena. So, and to answer your question, Ferris, Philip Seymour Hoffman, he was in Patch Adams, and I think he was in Central Woman with Al Pacino and Chris O'Donnell. I'm pretty sure. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure he is. And the thing I enjoyed most about this was also the montage of Katniss and PETA going to the districts, particularly when they go to the district where the young girl and the other guy and everything, it's Rue and Thrush get and everything. It's the district they're from. And you get a real sense of just how tight the government, the capital, is keeping everything, because all the people there in the crowd, they do the 3-finger salute and everything. They kiss their fingers and they hold up the 3 fingers for Katniss and PETA and for Rue and for Thrush. And you see that old man get executed in front of everybody. And you're thinking, this place is about to go off like a damn powder keg, and all they're doing is adding fuel to the fire, because eventually people are going to get tired of being beat down. So, Zach, I don't want to monopolize this, so your thoughts on anything I brought up, or your own thoughts on Catching Fire?
Well, my favorite character is President Snow. I mean, that dude is just such a fucking amazing actor. The scenes, dude, with Havensby and Snow are really kind of fascinating, where you see them kind of pulling the strings, making little political maneuvers. You see him trying to explain to Snow that he doesn't really have to kill her. What they're trying to do is generate resentment of her. So I don't know. I mean, those scenes to me are kind of the standouts of the film. Those two guys in the same room, man, is pure gold. I don't know. There's something to the Snow performance. Let me throw this at you. I mean, you may find this interesting.
Sure.
Actually, let me ask you the question.
Okay.
How do you feel about Jennifer Lawrence's performance here?
Honestly, being as I had not seen her, I knew of Jennifer Lawrence, like I said, from X-Men First Class. I really enjoyed her in X-Men First Class as Mystique. She was great in that. So I was like, okay, I know this actress, and she impressed me with her performance in that. I had not seen her in anything else besides X-Men First Class. Obviously, I had not seen the first Hunger Games. I had to go, like I mentioned, I went back and rewatched it on Netflix after I watched this.
Yeah, I think these were her 2 big breaks, and she had done like indie films, but nothing probably most people would have seen. She did like Joy, some smaller movies. She became a star like after this.
Yeah, she did. It was the Hunger Games and the X-Men franchise that really put her on the map. Honestly, her performance as Katniss, Grant, I don't know the character all that well from the books, but from what Bam Ambassador has told me and the little bit of research I've been able to do, It's pretty 1-to-1. It's pretty close to how she was portrayed in the books. Jennifer Lawrence, this is a very complex character. It's also a character that has a lot of depth to her. And I think Lawrence did a really solid I think she did a really solid job. Granted, she had good writing, she had good direction, and she had a good supporting cast around her. I think her performance was good. And I think if I was going to give it a ranking or a rating or whatever, I'd give it maybe a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. Or anything. There were a few moments or anything where her performance could have been a bit more. She could have beefed it up a little bit, or maybe the writing wasn't quite as good or whatever. But all the same, she did good. She did really good.
Yeah, for me, there's kind of a question mark about her performance. I'm not 100% sold on her. It's like you take a look at something like Harry Potter, where those three main characters are like, that's who the character is. I don't really
Mhm.
get that sense from her. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, there's little moments where you're like, fuck, that was not like that scream or that moment. It's like, I'm not sure. A little lacking sometimes.
Yeah. I think the things that, and these are just minor little things, she tries to come off very cold and very stern and very distant to everybody, but then she breaks down when the Capitol sends out their traps or whatever when they're in the arena and so on. And I'm like, okay, which are you? Are you the hard ass or are you kind of a sobby whimpering mess? Which are you? You can't be both. I'm not saying there can't be depth to her character, but it was too jarring. One minute she's a stone cold badass with a bow and arrow. The next minute she's a sobbing, whimpering mess when she gets swarmed by those birds, by those what they call them, jabberjays, in that one trap there in the arena. And I can understand it to a point, but at the same time, it was a bit, like I said, it was a bit jarring. That was one of the big things for me. But aside from that, her performance was good across the board in all the other scenes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, that for me, that's one of the weak spots. I mean, I agree with you. I like the films, and I do like her, but I don't know. For her, it's just not definitive for me. It's like you see other films, you're like, damn, that's the character. It's like if you look at when you get into your review of Mockingjay, right?
Mhm.
When she's standing there talking to Snow and she's like, I don't believe you. It's like, come on. I mean, some of that stuff is like, I don't, it could be the dialogue, it could be the directing, I don't know, but there are moments that pull me out of it with her
Mhm.
specifically.
And that's fair. And you mentioned the scenes with Snow and Heavensby. The thing you have to remember, these are two veteran actors. Now, granted, Donald Sutherland has been acting a lot longer than Philip Seymour Hoffman have been, but still, these are two actors that were very much at the top of their game. And the casting director and the director, I think they got the right castings here. Granted, you could they carried over Snow from the first movie because Donald Sutherland um, was already invested in this part, and Donald Sutherland, when he starts something, he sees it through and everything. He's one of those actors and everything. He's very old school, been acting since like the 1960s or whatever. He starts something, he finishes it, and he really, all the way through, and especially in this movie. The scene I really enjoyed, it was actually at the start of the film, and I didn't quite know all the context because, as I mentioned, I had not seen the first Hunger Games, but I knew enough to know that these two characters had interacted before. Granted, very limitedly, but also at the same time, they had interacted. And you could tell he was the one with all the cards, and Katniss was completely on her back foot. He was holding aces and eights. She was holding a pair. And I love that interplay between Katniss and Snow. Um, and there's one moment, and I imagine you'll agree with me on this. It's when they're at the presidential mansion, they're in the Capitol, and all the lights are down, all the fireworks are going up and everything. And Katniss looks over at Snow, and all he does is nod, and you just see her face just fall. I love that moment. I absolutely. I mean, there's no dialogue, no nothing. It's just the fireworks and the music, and that's it. And he just gives her a look, and he just nods. He's like, "You didn't convince me. You're dead."
Yeah, well, that's kind of a cool scene. I mean, he's spitting up the blood, right? Which that is
Yeah,
a cool thing too. Is
yeah.
they don't spell this out in the movie, but if anybody looks deeper into it, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
easy to find. So I think it's pretty well-known information, but he would ingest poison to
Mm-hmm.
build up a tolerance in the event that somebody was trying to kill him.
Yeah. Well, and even when we get to this, well, we can bring it up here, but tomorrow night when we discuss Mockingjay, it's something that Finnick discusses in his big old dialogue with her while the soldiers are going on the rescue mission to save the victors and everything from the capital. And Finnick O'Dare mentions that in his speech. And you're not the thing I always wondered, because granted, like I said, I have not read the books. I might do so one of these days. We don't know if it's due to him ingesting poison or if it's because of his health. I've always had the impression, particularly from particularly Mockingjay Part 2, you almost get the sense that maybe Snow. This is kind of Snow's exit strategy, so to speak, because he realizes that the capital and the districts, all of that way of life, is about to go up in smoke. Because he screwed. As smart and as intelligent and as crafty as Snow is, he didn't plan for one of the rebels to actually infiltrate his regime. That, of course, being Plutarch. And I love how Plutarch is seemingly playing Snow. He's playing Snow right into the hands of the rebels and all the other districts, when he's sitting there saying, "This is what we should do," and yada yada yada, and all the time, especially in the aftermath of, Katniss shoots the arrow at the dome, and Plutarch is nowhere to be found, and the whole damn district, the whole control center is dark. And later on, you see the hovercraft come in and extract Katniss's body, and you see, or whether you hear Finnick and Haymitch and Plutarch, and they're all talking in a forward compartment, you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? Because you're not exactly sure who got Katniss.
Mm-hmm.
If it was the Capitol or if it was, in fact, the rebels. Because we don't know the capabilities of the rebels at this point. So,
yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it was the Capitol.
Yeah. And that was a lot of people's thinking, especially because you don't know if maybe Haymitch had switched sides, which you wouldn't necessarily think that he would by any stretch. You wouldn't think that Haymitch would want anything to do with the Capitol. You don't think that you don't believe that he would turn on his own district, but at the same time, I'm not saying that Haymitch is necessarily a bad guy as a character or anything, but everybody's allegiances are kind of ambiguous in this movie, and especially in the first movie and everything as well. I mean, hell, everybody's allegiances and their motivations is ambiguous in Mockingjay. Like I said, we'll get to that tomorrow night. But that ending, that was really sold me, and like, okay, I definitely, as I mentioned, I need to go back and watch the first movie. And to get to Ferris's comment, and Ferris, I know you've probably been saying there, like, Ambassador, you ever going to address my comment? Yeah. Since you didn't see the first Hunger Games movie in theaters, were you aware that there were similarities to other movies before, like The Running Man starring Arnold Schwarzenegger? It had crossed my mind, Ferris, but at the same time, that was a different dynamic in terms of let's just be honest here. The Running Man was a pure action film. It was a vehicle for Arnold Schwarzenegger and obviously for Richard Dawson as Damon Killian. But that was a pure action film. Hunger Games had more of a message to it, especially across all three movies. I don't know how you feel about that, Zach. If you feel there's more of a message in Hunger Games than there would be in The Running Man.
Yeah, I think there is. That's interesting. So what do you think the message is? There's some kind of there's some kind of a political theme to it. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I think the message or the themes of Hunger Games is the idea of a people that seemingly have been so downtrodden and so beaten down for so long. All they need is one spark of hope to motivate them, to galvanize them, and to unify them to topple a tyrant. If you look at the title of this movie, Catching Fire, and you look at some of the scenes, particularly when they're on the train going to and from the Capitol, and Katniss, they get back to the Capitol, or get back to District 12, and she's talking to Gale, and she's like, I saw footage of people in the districts fighting back. You know, the districts that me and Peter had all gone to, people were standing up, they were fighting back. Even though the Capitol was trying to stomp them down, the people weren't having it no more. And I think one of the other themes is that any tyrant, any tyrannical regime can, either by grassroots political movement or by outright revolution, can be eventually toppled. If you look at Hunger Games through the lens of the French Revolution, or even maybe, I'd say more so the French Revolution. Granted, the French Revolution got really out of hand. Let me qualify something right here and now. Somebody who studied the history and watched a lot of documentaries on the French Revolution. The French Revolution got way, way, way out of hand. Big time. But at the same time, when the French Revolution first started out, where they eventually did overthrow and eventually kill Louis, King Louis the 16th, and Marie Antoinette, there's some similarities there between, because the people had eventually gotten tired of the aristocracy, they got tired of being beaten down and worn down and just mistreated by the aristocracy. Well, the first two estates, the royalty and the clergy, they had their fill of it, and they're like, you know what? There's a lot more of us than there is you. So guess what? Now everybody's going to be on an equal footing. Now, regardless of how you look at the history after the French Revolution, or even look at the history during the French Revolution, it was successful. And I think that for right there is one of the major themes of the Hunger Games novels and the books, or the novels and the movies both. And I think there's another theme, and I'll say this and then I'll shut up and everything so you can say have your piece. I think the characters are these are the everyman. Practically every character, Katniss and Peeta and Gale and Haymitch and all of them, they are the everyman. They are people. They are characters that you and I can relate to. They don't have extraordinary powers. They're just normal people that maybe have a really good skill or something. And that's that's one of the two or three of the major themes in Hunger Games.
Well, is there? I agree with everything you said. Is there something to be said about the creation of an idol? You know, like the societal presentation of an idol, like a Martin Luther King type figure with Katniss, where society is in such a position that it creates somebody to lead that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did. Well, and Plutarch even says it at the end of the movie. This is a rebellion, and you're the Mockingjay.
And it's
You're the
accidental. It's accidental. It's happenstance.
if you look at it is in a manner of speaking, it is happenstance, but at the same time, the thing you have to realize if Katniss had never volunteered for her little sister Primrose or Prim, there's no telling what could have potentially happened. It may have been another 75 years or more before the revolution may have ever started.
That's true, but
But
that's happenstance because I could see myself doing that for my sister.
I,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think a lot
I
of
think
people would.
if I had a brother or sister, younger one, and I was in a similar situation, you damn right, my hand goes up. I say, I volunteer as tribute. I definitely agree with that.
But there's some type of a saying or a concept that when society needs a certain person, that person is produced.
I don't know the exact quote that you're referencing, but I do. It does ring a bell. Okay, let's jump in our Wayback Machine for just let's jump back in the Wayback Machine for just a minute.
It's intriguing though as a concept
Granted,
to me.
he isn't. It is because there's been other characters that have been like that in cinema, in movies, and so on. The closest one I can think of, and you can if you disagree, that's fine, is Luke Skywalker. If you've been able to read the novels, if you've read some of the extra material, the old expanded universe material, Luke was in a way the face of the rebellion. Grant, he was a face amongst a million others, but here's the thing. He was a Jedi. And there were still people in the rebellion and still people in the galaxy who still regard the Jedi in a positive light. They didn't see them as the monsters that the Empire had portrayed them as. Granted, Luke's actions in the rebellion were sporadic. He wasn't always on the front lines, but wherever he was, everybody looked up to him. Whatever rebel cell he was with, they always looked to him for encouragement, for strength, for really good as a good fighter on the field. And people respected him. There is a bit of a parallel between Luke and Katniss. They are faces seemingly plucked out of the crowd. They are characters who that come onto the
That's so funny.
board.
That reminds me of that scene where Coin takes over Snow's broadcast and she says, "Picked from the masses," he said, and he goes, "Plucked."
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
It's so funny.
It is. It very much is. I think people have a need for a icon or for a leader or for a quote unquote hero to look up to.
Yeah,
I think,
and you know what? They turn to some pretty strange characters sometimes. Take a look at the U.S. politics, man. Without going down a tangent, I mean, there have been some strange political figures who have risen. You know, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. Who the fuck could have ever thought? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have a need. We have a need.
We as human beings do have a need to pick that person that is seemingly like us and raise them all to a iconic figure.
Well, you need a fighter. That's the thing. You need somebody who was willing to fight, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And, here's the thing. You mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. He was first and foremost a pastor. He agreed, he did believe in equality amongst the races. That's a sentiment that I think pretty much anybody would share. But he believed in peaceful protest. He was not a militant. That was Malcolm X. Malcolm X was the militant of the two. Everybody knows this. I'm not saying that to disparage Malcolm X to any degree. He was more militant. He was more violent in how he went about bringing about social change. And sometimes violence, while distasteful, is sometimes required. I think Katniss didn't see herself as this iconic, seemingly mythic figure. She was just one person. And she she made a selfless act. You know, it's kind of like, well, no, because that's for tomorrow night.
I've got
I
another
think,
concept for you. I can rip
sure,
another topic here if you want.
sure.
Okay, so I'm pretty interested in the way the Capitol is reacting because we
Hmm.
almost never see the villains on the back foot. We never see the inner workings of the villainous team. It's like if we had the same amount of scenes between Palpatine and Tarkin, I think we'd see similar conversations. They just show it to us in this. You see kind of the vulnerability of the Capitol, which is totally unique. I feel you never see the bad guys talking like this and strategizing. You just see the heroes win, and you see the villains get weaker off screen. But in this, you see the whole thing. You see the crumble of the tyranny,
Hmm.
which is maybe what was so appealing to Donald Sutherland. You see kind of the weakness of tyranny,
The
and it
thing you
makes
have,
it
mhm.
human. It makes it human too.
Yeah, it very much does, because here's the interesting thing about Donald Sutherland, and it's something that sometimes gets lost. He started his acting career in the 60s, and there were a lot of movies, a lot of what they would call counterculture films that he starred in, or where he played these very oddball, very out there, very counterculture characters. The first movie I ever remember seeing him in was one called Kelly's Heroes, that starred him and Clint Eastwood and Telly
Don Rickles.
Savalas and Don Rickles.
Yep.
Don Sutherland's character Oddball was very much a hippie, but the problem was in World War II there was no such thing as the hippie. The hippie did not exist. This was a movie that took place during World War II, and yet Donald Sutherland played a hippie. And I think, him kind of still having that kind of hippie mindset, which there's nothing wrong with. He was very counterculture. He was very anti-establishment. That was something that, with this character of President Snow, that he kind of, I think, really attracted him to the part. I mean, it's a great part. Suzanne Collins did a great job writing Snow. I mean, Snow is, I think, one of the more underrated villains of the 2000s.
Absolutely. He's
I,
fucking
I mean,
iconic, dude. And he only has about 15 minutes of screen time.
mhm,
Something like
yeah,
some crazy number, but he's
yeah.
barely in it.
But the minute for every scene that he's in, you remember him.
But I'm a
Every
sucker for
scene.
bad guys, man. I love the bad guys. I always have.
I'm the same way. I love a good villain. But you bring up something. They put a human face to the Capitol. And I think that was a really good move, both on Suzanne Collins's part when she was writing these, and then the screenwriters and the adapters. They carried that line through because they knew it would play with the audience. Everything, because as you mentioned, you very rarely ever see the bad guys on a back foot. You always see them in the dominant position. This was and I know this is a phrase that some people may not really care for, a subversion of expectation. This is a good execution of subversion of expectation. Instead of, now here's the thing, the Capitol wasn't completely on a back foot, but at the same time, they could tell things were starting to go sideways. And they were doing everything they could to try and make sure everything stayed their way.
Well, you see how delicate it is, like the
It
way
is.
they're talking about it. I mean, and the little
Well, and
small adjustments and moves, they are concerned about every detail, which
yeah.
is something I don't think I could even think of another film that's done that.
Off the top of my head, no. Ferris brings up one and everything, and
Yeah, we can
I'll
talk about Divergent if you want. Have you seen it?
I've seen all of them,
Okay.
and there. I think the problem with Divergent is it came in at the end of the young adult movie franchise bubble, and the bubble burst. Not to mention the lead actor is Shea Woosley or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever her name is. She kind of did some dumb stuff in her own public
Well,
life.
it just was
But
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't have a positive viewpoint on those.
I don't dislike them by any stretch, but at the same time, it seemed too similar to the Hunger Games.
Well,
The
I
only
don't
difference
so
was
what was it about, dude? I can't even remember.
it's something similar to the Hunger Games. There are these various factions that run this world, and it's set in a future Earth, and it's been a long time since I've watched the movies. There's, here's the thing: there's more similarities to Divergent than there are dissimilarities to it in terms of the Hunger Games. Got a You've got a female lead who's kind of the everybody, the every man, or in this case, the every woman. You've
There was a
got
test.
the semi.
What wasn't there a test or a trial or some shit?
There's some sort of test or anything to find out which um cast or whatever you're supposed to go into, and it was really convoluted. The only things I really remember is the fact that Kate Winslet played the bad guy, and I think it was like in the second movie or second or
She was
third movie.
okay in it. She was all right,
She
dude.
was all right, but here's the thing: she was just a stand-in for Donald Sutherland's character, and I'll
I
be
mean, pretty
honest.
much.
Donald Sutherland as President Snow was more interesting than Kate Winslet as whatever the name of her character was.
They
I
weren't
mean, I'm not
horrible.
saying
I would be open to watching those movies again, but I don't. I mean, I'm intrigued by the whole concept of this genre, but
well, here's the thing. What
it's the
are
same
the
genre. You're right.
three similarities which well, I'm talking about the three prominent franchises that got turned into movies. It was Twilight, Hunger Games, Divergent. Divergent was kind of like the redhead's stepchild.
Yeah,
And
well,
what was the
Twilight,
main
dude.
themes?
Those were not movies for guys
Now,
like you and me. You know what I mean?
actually, I actually quite enjoyed the Twilight movies. I actually went and saw them, except for the last one in theater.
All right.
I,
Well, the anti-hype kept me away from it. I am only
it's
familiar with one scene. Okay, the one scene I have seen
yeah,
is what's his name? Michael, who plays the Vampire King.
Michael Sheen.
Yeah, his little laugh.
Yeah, you've mentioned that. Here's the thing. The reason why I latched onto Twilight is because it was right at the end of when Buffy the Vampire Slayer was wrapping up the series. And I was like, hey, I like vampires. Hey, I like werewolves. Hey, I liked Robert Pattinson and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I'm going to go check this out. And every single time I went, now this is way before I met Madam Ambassador, well before. Now she's, and I say this not mockingly because I love her. Madam Ambassador is a huge twihard, and I love her for it. It's one of the main reasons I married her. So,
Mm-hmm.
but anything I would go with friends, I would go with coworkers and everything, because this was something I wanted to experience with friends. And every time I went with my friends or coworkers to see the Twilight movies, we always had a great time.
I guess if you watch it as a comedy, maybe it would be
I
enjoyable.
didn't I didn't watch it as a comedy. I watched it as for what it was. It was a young adult romance with vampires and werewolves and Kristen Stewart as Bella. And I loved him. I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't like Twilight from start to finish. I did. I loved it.
Well, she
Every
got
single
clowned. She got clowned. I heard she gave a terrible performance.
The first movie, she wasn't the best, but at the same time, she had a good cast around her. As the
Did
movies
wait,
went on,
was
she
Tamara Morrison in that movie?
no,
He
none of them.
wasn't. Oh, okay.
No, none of them. So, and I do want to say hello to the chat to a couple of good friends. DJ Odyssey, no, no sparkly. Yes, sparkly vampires, and they do exist, and I do like them. So, sorry, Deej. I ain't gonna agree with you on this one. And George, good to see you, buddy. So,
Lewis brings up
Lewis
another good one, dude. Yeah, there you go.
Maze
Maze
Runner.
Runner. Yeah.
I only saw the first one, and I really wasn't all that impressed. I never watched any of the others.
Same genre though. It's like the same type of movie.
Well, you have to remember the early to mid 2000s were the young adult novel franchise genre spree, and then the bubble burst with Divergent.
Divergent killed it.
I don't necessarily Divergent killed it, or if the genre just kind of run its course, which honestly, if you look at it, kind of has, because they really haven't done any more beyond that.
Well, it's basically it's a rework of Dystopian. That's what it is.
In a manner of speaking, it is, yeah, with Hunger Games. Now, I will say this, of the three, of Hunger Games, Divergent, and Maze Runner, Hunger Games was the best of them. Now, I'm not saying that the books were bad, because I've never read any of the books. But in terms of the movie adaptations, Hunger Games was the best of them.
Yeah, Maze Runner 1 was okay, but it's totally convoluted. There's no doubt about that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why are they putting the kids in the maze? You know, it's like, it's weird. It's weird, but it was entertaining.
To kind of to steer us back on course a little bit.
Not to mention, let me say one last thing. Giancarlo, dude, a big player. I think
Giancarlo.
Yeah, he's in the sequel.
Honestly, I never saw it. I saw the first one, and I think I saw the one on the first one on like TV, or I rented it or something. I don't remember at this point. But I was like, it's okay. I don't hate it, but I wasn't interested in rewatching it.
I would say it's worth watching.
Hunger Games, I would say it's rewatching at least once, but no more than once.
Yeah, it's not spectacular, but it's okay.
Catching Fire was, I was originally going to go see Hunger. I was originally going to go see Ender's Game, and I actually got a copy of that movie on Blu-ray years ago. I still have not sat down and watched it. I want to, because
very mediocre. Dude,
I love the book. I love the book.
I don't know. It's pretty mediocre, in my opinion.
The movie might be, but the book, I remember reading the book and everything, and I loved it. Absolutely stellar piece of science fiction by a really competent sci-fi writer, Orson Scott Card.
Mm-hmm.
But I went and saw this instead, and I was happy that I saw it. I mean, it ended on a very resounding note, like, okay, she's going to go kick somebody's ass now. And she eventually does. But it's not the person you expect. Of course, we'll get to that tomorrow night. But Catching Fire was... I don't know if maybe it was just the time they came out for me, but it really... maybe it was just because I was stressed because I was in seminary at the time, and I just wanted a good break from everything, and I was able to disconnect and just watch this and enjoy it. But the games themselves, when they're in the arena, and it's a game within a game, and I love that. There's double crosses, there's triple crosses, but nobody's double crossing each other per se. Everybody's double crossing the Capitol, because they're all working to the same end to get Katniss and Pete out of there, or mainly Katniss. And when Joanna is like, we did all this for you, and Katniss is like, what the hell do you mean? And Joanna's like, you know what, screw it, I ain't gonna explain it to you. Joanna was a hard ass, but she wasn't a bad. She was by no means a bad character. Now there is one character I do want to bring up, and this is one that made me sad when when he has last seen, and that was Cinna, played by Lenny Kravitz, and he makes the dress for her, the wedding dress, and then he transforms it into the Mockingjay dress, and deep in your bones, even though you don't want to admit it, that he's not going to make it out of this alive. And it was unfortunate because he was one of the few he was one of the people that really believed in Katniss and really cared for Katniss immensely. I mean, he was just her stylist, but he was one of the really true friends that she had from the capital. Effie grew on her after a while.
She was fucking crazy. I mean,
Effie
what
was
a wild
not
character.
Here's the thing about Effie. Effie, she's a little out there. Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, you see her humanity start to break through, particularly when they announce the quarter quill, and she's standing up there on the platform with Haymitch and with Katniss and with Peeta. And she doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to pull those names out of those jars because she knows there's no random chance. She knows exactly what's going to happen, and it's eating her up inside. But at the same time, she's in a very precarious position. Yeah, she's in the capital, but she has no choice. And that's the moment where Effie really started to grow on me as a character. The first movie, she wasn't horrible, but she was still kind of annoying. The second movie is where Effie really started to shine where she started to have a journey as a character. And I think I know people have their opinions about Elizabeth Banks, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm talking about her performance here. Elizabeth Banks
disappeared into it, by the way. Disappeared into the fucking part.
And she did. And you know what? That's a sign of a good actor or actress when they can disappear into that character. Or disappear into that character. And she did. And she nailed that character. She nailed every note. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Woody Harrelson as Haymitch.
Pretty fucking good, dude. The only thing is, dude, Woody with a wig always fucking throws me off. He's good. I'm not shitting on him.
I get, and I get that wig. Because I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be bald? But at the same time, just
let him be bald. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, but at the same time, he did look good with the wig. The wig did look good on him. I will admit.
Yeah,
that.
It wasn't as bad as the Carnage wig was a fucking nightmare. I don't know. I don't know if you remember.
I don't exactly remember the wig for Carnage, but at the same time, it's been a while since I watched that movie.
It was a ginger afro.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at some stills or something or some footage of him from Let There Be Carnage. But the scene on the train where Effie's like, "We're a team, aren't we?" She's like, "We should have a token." She's like, "I have my hair."
Well, she's kind of a lost puppy herself, dude. She's really enjoying having that little family, feeling of family.
Well, if you think about it, how many times has she seen one of her tributes go off to die? How many times? And that can wear on you. This is the first time, and I think she even realizes that things are starting to change in the districts, in the capital, in Panem itself. And she's just trying to survive in a lot of ways. But she has this group of people that she cares about. Her and Haymitch aren't constantly at each other's throats in this movie. She's not as annoying to Peeta and Katniss because they've kind of grown on each other. But I think the one character departure, the one character death that really hit me, and I was pissed when I saw this in theaters, and it still riles me up is when they're getting ready to send Katniss into the arena, and the peacemakers come in. They start beating up Senna. I'm like, you cowardly sons of bitches.
And I don't think we it's confirmed that he's dead until the next film.
Yeah, it's the. I think it is pretty much it is Mockingjay Part 1 where he is confirmed that he was killed because of the Mockingjay dress that he
Well,
makes
let
for
me ask. Can I ask you a question?
Katniss. Of course, always.
So, what was the action different enough for you in part two? Because, like I said, it's basically a rehash of part one, just with new elements brought into it. The heart of the film is similar. Quarter Quell, Hunger Games, same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it only gets different. If they had done a third movie and had done another Hunger Games, I probably would not be a fan. You know.
Well, in a manner of speaking, I mean, um, Finnick does say it in Mockingjay Part 2, Welcome to the 76 Hunger Games. Granted, it's not an official, it's called The Defense of the Capitol, which is obviously a completely different
Yeah, that doesn't
dynamic.
count. I mean, that doesn't
No,
count.
it doesn't. Honestly, do I see similarities? Sure. Do the similarities bother me? No, they don't. Because for me, this is my introduction to this franchise. So I didn't have that much of an issue with it being somewhat similar to the first movie, just with added elements to it and different characters, new characters, and so on. I was still invested enough, going back and rewatching it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see there are some similarities here, but there's still enough different that it was still engaging. So,
Well, in this film, we didn't really have a Kato type player, did we? Who was
uh,
the big bad player?
there really wasn't one. I mean, now there were the career victors, the ones that were grew up in like District 1 or District 2, and they were the really lethal ones and everything because they had trained all their lives and they had survived their games and everything, and they pretty much kept up their training. But there wasn't the capital. It's kind of like what um, Phoenix says to Katniss when he's yelling, and he says, "Remember who the real enemy is." The enemy here is not the other tributes or the other victors in this case. The real enemy is the capital. It's Snow. It's all of them. It's the capital itself that's the enemy, not the people that they're trying to fight against in the arena. That's
Well,
the
that is
big
pretty
difference.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that you have like I think you could call Kato the main villain of the first movie.
Mm, yes and no. I mean, there were obviously factions within the tributes in the first movie.
But that guy played dirty though. He was like a nasty person, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? He was evil, you could say.
Yeah.
He didn't give a
Yeah.
fuck.
Well, and you have to remember too, he was from like District 1 or District 2. So he grew up in that world of being trained all his life for the games and then eventually just volunteering and everything on his own. He doesn't have to go, they don't have to go through a reaping. He just volunteers. So do you want to say hello to the chat to a face I haven't seen in a while? Positive Candor. Good to see you, PC. Hope you're doing well. But honestly, the similarities, between Catching Fire and the first movie, they are there, but it's not a big thing. I think one of the really iconic moments in this, and it does tie back to when Katniss does the spin and the wedding dress that President Snow has designed for her, and it turns into the Mockingjay dress. And it's when all of the victors are standing up there on the platform and they raise their hands in defiance. That for me was a really powerful scene. And, yeah, these people in a few hours or a day or so are going to be at odds, but you don't realize just how much solidarity there actually is there. That's something that Snow doesn't realize in that moment. They might be trying to kill each other, but they're trying to kill each other not because they're vindictive or they're evil. They're trying to do it to survive. But they don't realize that there is an alliance that's unbeknownst to everybody that's comprised of obviously Katniss and Peeta. Grant Katniss doesn't know anything, but it's Peeta, it's Finnick, it's Finnick's best friend Mags, it's Wyrus and Beatty. Um,
Yeah,
Jeffrey
Mags
Wright's
was
character.
kind of a sad death, huh?
It was very much so, but you know what? Her sacrifice was a good one. I actually loved the line when Haymitch is talking about the other victors and everything. He's like, "I hope when she goes quick because she's actually a very sweet lady." And you think to yourself,
And you know she's going down too. I mean, she's an
"Yeah,
old lady. She's going down.
yeah, she is and everything." And she sacrifices herself so that Finnick and Peeta and Katniss can make it out of that fog. I will say this: the traps, the arena for this particular game, some of the traps were actually extremely well designed. The poisonous fog, the baboons, and everything. The raining blood that Joanna mentions, and everything when she's getting Wyrus and Beatty out of the section of the arena that they're in. Plutarch pulled out all the stops for this one, and he did a great job. I mean, obviously it comes all from the writer. He comes from Joanna Collins and everything, but the way they're actually able to visualize this stuff on screen, you're looking at this, you're thinking, oh, it's fog, and then you realize, oh crap, it's poisonous fog that can give you blisters and potentially kill you. Like, wonderful.
Yeah, well, that was one of the main things that made it fresh. You know, even the cornucopia was badass with the water and all that stuff.
Well, and not to mention that you realize just how much control they have in that control room when Plutarch tells one of the technicians, spin it.
Yeah.
And it actually spins the damn thing in the arena. I'm thinking, what are the hydraulics like to actually cause that to happen?
Well, the thing is go ahead.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, it's all right, Zach.
Didn't mean to cut you off. Well, so it was the thing is Plutarch is misleading Snow throughout the entire thing. I mean, when he's talking about we're trying to get her to kill somebody, that's not really the purpose. He's, supposedly what he's telling Snow is we want her to push her towards other players. So he's kind of secretly protecting her throughout the game.
Yeah, essentially he is. I mean, it really goes to show just how ingenious Plutarch Heavensby as a character, how well he was written and how well he was portrayed. This was a guy that was a double agent. Oftentimes, double agents don't make it out. This one did. And
he got the fuck out of Dodge too at the end.
When he realizes what Katniss is about to do, he's like, "Yep, I'm out. Bye." He hits that door faster than
I think he says, I'll see you in a little bit.
He's like, "We'll toast after. We'll toast after this is over," or something to that effect. And yeah,
he had put too much faith in Plutarch. Snow didn't have anybody left, really. He'd killed his other guy.
Yeah, he killed Seneca Crane, and okay, another favorite scene of mine, and it's actually with Jeffrey Wright and the other woman who played Wyrus. When they're there in the training center with the other victors, and Katniss is showing them how to start a fire, and he's showing her the force field that's over the observation room and everything, where the game makers and the other officials are everything at. And she's like, I guess that was in response to me shooting an arrow at him. I couldn't help but get a chuckle out of that. And Jeffrey Wright in this movie, and especially in Mockingjay 1 and 2, him as Beatty, one of my favorite Jeffrey Wright performances. Truly, I mean, I'm glad they brought him in for the other two movies and everything, because he was an absolute delight.
He's great. Yeah, he's great. He was also really good in Westworld, the TV show.
I heard he was in that. I've never watched it.
Oh, so
I've heard.
dude. I mean, to sell you on season 1, I think I only need to say 2 names:
Well,
Ed
Jeffrey Wright,
Harris,
obviously.
Ed Harris,
Mm-hmm.
Man in Black, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, I knew that they were in that, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it. I've never actually seen the original movie. I've wanted to, but I never have.
Yeah, the original is worth watching too.
Oh yeah, the original Westworld with Yul Brynner as the Man in Black. I've
It
never
feels
seen it.
like it was made when it was made, but it's still good.
So that's why those movies are iconic. You know, the original Westworld is iconic. I mean, it came out in the 1960s when all of those dystopian future science fiction films were all the rage. I mean, you look at that, you have Westworld, you have the original Planet of the Apes films, and anything. I don't count the one that Tim Burton did. That one was just
a piece of shit. And I love Tim Burton, but that
I
was
love Tim Burton too, but why? Why, Tim? Why of all things would you do a remake? You know, there's another channel that I watch periodically and everything. I know he's not Wright's cup of tea, but you've probably heard of it. Nostalgia Critic.
Yeah,
He did a review. He did a review of Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg. And him in a really cheap, it's not cheap, but semi cheap cosplay as Thade that Tim Roth plays the general.
It was horrible. It was fucking horrible.
But here's the nice thing: if it hadn't been for that, we wouldn't have gotten the reboot of the reboot. We wouldn't have gotten the other 3 movies or anything, which were actually quite good. I did see the first one. I did see the second one. I didn't see War for the Planet of the Apes yet, but I'm going to eventually.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson, dude. Speaking of Woody playing the big bad in part 2.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember he was in them, but I never got, like I said, I haven't had a chance to see it as of yet. But honestly, the great thing about Hunger Games is it is based on a young adult novel. And this is something me and Mam Ambassador brought up about a week ago when we did the other stream. These were books that were targeted at a young adult audience, teenagers, preteens and the sort. But they were able to adapt them into movies that everybody can enjoy. Because at the time I was in my mid 30s when the Hunger Games and Catching Fire came out. I was like, yeah, I'll go check this out. That's the mark of good marketing. Because the Hunger Games films and even the Twilight films, both the franchises had good marketing. Not to mention you had a diehard fan base in terms of the people that love the books. And even the people who read the books went and saw the movies, they're like, these are good.
Well, dude, I even remember the marketing for Mockingjay, where you had them doing like creepy Capitol broadcasts.
Yeah,
I don't know,
and
you remember
that
those?
was one thing I loved. That was one thing I loved. Yeah,
maybe we should play a couple at the end here.
Might do that tomorrow night. So, because those were really Granted, Lionsgate wasn't a big studio at the time. Still isn't necessarily a huge studio, but the Twilight franchise were the franchises that really anything they've done. The last series or whatever last movie they released was, but Hunger Games and Twilight put them on the map. So, and that's a good thing. Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, 10, 20 years from now, people still probably talk about Hunger Games because it's that long lasting of a franchise. It is really timeless. So, I don't know what you got to say. That's one of the Capitol clips.
No, something else.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're gonna give me another dumb copyright claim, Zach, I'm gonna yell at you.
No,
I'm serious,
man. So I got some tricks up my sleeve.
You give me another copyright claim, I'm gonna be mad at you. I'm gonna go find you and
Well,
dump you.
you'll just have to live with it.
Let's see. Well, dang. Third musician in the last few years and second day pass. Gary Wright. Never heard of him. But yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
what's his
had.
face? Margaritaville. Damn it. Can't think of the singer's name. I've seen it half a dozen times on my Facebook feed. Oh, for heaven's
All these
sakes.
legends are old, man. That's the problem. It's like these actors, man, I mean, are all 80. All the
Yeah.
guys we like, Pesci, De Niro, Pacino, Nicholson, Freeman. You go down the list. These guys are old as fucking dirt, and it's going to be a sad day. But I mean,
Yeah.
eventually everybody's got to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Yeah, DJ, I did hear about that. The lead singer for Smash Mouth died. He was only 56.
Liver problem, right?
I'm not
I think it
exactly
was a
sure,
liver
but
failure.
it might have been. I'm not, like I said, I'm not exactly sure. Deej, I'm a music aficionado, but not as much so as you are. I have my particular things in music that I actually like. Now, I will say this. This was something I caught maybe a year or a few months after I saw Catching Fire. Somebody did a music video. It wasn't an official one, but somebody did a music video for Yellow Flicker beat and everything by Lord, and they used footage from Catching Fire and everything for the music video. I was like, damn, that's killer. I love that.
Mm.
Of course, the Yellow Flicker beat didn't pop up until I think it was Mockingjay. I think there's actually they had on the set that we have. They actually have the music video for Yellow Flicker beat. Catchy
well,
as hell. Catchy.
You were talking to me about music as it pertains to changing culture and stuff. We were talking about that those new songs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they show that in Mockingjay Part 1, or it could be Part 2, but there's the Hanging Tree song that she's singing on the broadcast, and then they start singing it.
That's in Mockingjay Part 1.
Yeah, well, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because anything related to the Mockingjay that people were going to latch onto. We'll get more so into that tomorrow night when we hit Mockingjay. But yeah, that song and everything. I actually found a cover of it by a guy who sings everything a cappella. Really good singer, independent singer. He does a cover of Hanging Tree, and for a while there, I really dug that song. I still do. And I'll say this for someone who's not a trained singer to any extent. Jennifer Lawrence did an okay job with that song. She really did. So now a trained singer could have probably really punched it up, but she did a good job.
Yeah, it was good. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're gonna do final thoughts, and then I'll pull this. I swear, you give me another copyright claim. We're gonna have words, and you're not gonna like half of them. We'll do final thoughts on Catching Fire, and then we'll play this clip or whatever this is, and we'll call it an evening.
We'll do it like a talk show, dude. I'll introduce the clip before we get there. I've brought a clip.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's do final thoughts and then we'll do the clip. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so final thoughts on Catching Fire.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first, Zach. Absolutely.
All right. So Catching Fire, I think really works for me because you see more of the dynamics of the Capitol. You've got a lot of additional stuff brought into it, some new characters introduced. So I can forgive certain elements of the films, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Hunger Games, but I enjoy it for many, many reasons. You've got great performances. You've got a really fantastic structure that I totally dig. You know, I'm a big fan of dystopian. Maybe one of the greatest dystopian stories ever told. You know, I mean, you look at there's not much to compare it to, and the stuff that there is kind of lousy. You know, like we were talking about some of the alternative films in the same genre. I mean, Divergent, Maze Runner, they can't fucking touch Hunger Games. So, yeah, the second one pretty good. You've got more snow. You've got Plutarch. Yeah, dude, overall pretty solid.
As I mentioned throughout the evening, this was the movie that introduced me to the world of the Hunger Games, and it's made me a fan ever since. I know. For me, it after seeing the first one, it really deepened and enriched the world that Suzanne Collins had created, and it really showed that even the people that might be seemingly be beaten down aren't broken. That even a broken people can still rise up and can still kick ass, and we obviously will get more into that tomorrow night with Mockingjay parts 1 and 2. Just so you all know, we will be doing Mockingjay part 1 and 2 as one stream. We won't be splitting it up. So it it has some very iconic lines. It has some really cool iconic scenes, some great visuals. I mean, the lightning striking the tree and Katniss shooting the arrow at the ceiling of the arena. That's an iconic moment if there ever was one. And Snow's just absolutely deadpan face, like, oh hell, we're screwed. It's a powerful moment, and obviously the last shot of the movie, close up of Katniss's face, and she's like, "Okay, you've taken my home. I'm taking everything from you now." You can't get much more of a cliffhanger than that. That is a cliffhanger done right in a lot of ways, because everybody and their mother was chomping at the bit, waiting for Mockingjay Part 1 to come out. And then, of course, as we'll talk about tomorrow, and I'll say briefly here, you get another great cliffhanger at the end of Mockingjay Part 1. So, all right, let's see what you got for us, Zach.
All right. So what we're taking a look at here is Donald Sutherland in a TV show called The Undoing. You know, this guy, I'm such a fan of Donald Sutherland, man, so I brought a Donald Sutherland clip. I don't think anybody has seen this show. I've never heard anyone bring it up, but you've got Hugh Grant and God, I forget the lead, but it's good. It's good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look.
And by the way, guys, this is Donald Sutherland at like age 85 or some shit like that. I don't know. He's old as dirt in this. It's 2 years ago.
He might be old as dirt, but he still kicks ass.
You could skip this intro, whatever the fuck this is. Abstract Harm. They stole the clip, obviously, so let's not give them any credit.
Let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go.
He didn't do anything wrong. Well, we should get of everyone, if Henry, for the time being.
Why?
With the trial approaching, the distraction serves no one.
You told my daughter that Reardon would be there for Henry, that the community was steadfast.
I did, but
Henry, if ever an overpriced, self-important, full of shit school needed to step up.
this is coming from the board. They feel we need to create distance between Reardon and all the ugliness. I cannot exalt your grandson's needs at the expense of the schools writ large.
Well, I can. I've given a lot of money to this school, Mr. Conifer, and I've always considered it a privilege to be able to do so. But make no mistake, I am a cocksucker, and I don't mean that in the sense of gay belittlement as it's currently come to be interpreted. No. I'm an old-fashioned cocksucker, the more traditional kind. The kind who fucks over anyone who hurts me or a loved one. You speak of ugliness, Mr. Conifer. You have not yet met ugliness.
There you go. The Undoing. Donald Sutherland, man. One of the greatest. One of the greatest of all time.
Son of a...
He's creepy as fuck in that show. He's like that in almost every scene. He's trying to defend.
Son of a... I love that. I do.
Daughter.
I love that. I love that to death. That was absolutely brilliant. That's almost... Oof. I think I got goosebumps.
He's creepy, man.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, but Don Sutherland does creepy really, really, really well. He does. He does creepy so well. There's actually a movie I'm going to do in October. It's going to be for my Halloween streams. It's actually one that he stars in. It's called The Puppet Masters. You ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
Ooh, he's good in that. He's good in that. It's a adaptation of Robert Heinlein's novel by the same title, the Puppet Masters. September this month is going. It's the next week is my birthday, and I always do some special streams or anything. Not that any of my streams aren't special. I always do some special streams for my birthday, and this year we're doing sci-fi. I'm not calling it that, but just sci-fi September.
Why not? Yeah, that sounds good.
Going to be reviewing the original Day the Earth Stood Still, the original War of the Worlds, Forbidden Planet, and Starship Troopers. Four of my all-time favorite sci-fi films ever. Absolutely
Starship Troopers, man. One of the best. Did you hear they're redoing it? I know.
Why?
Yep, they're rebooting it.
Why?
Because nothing dies, Ambassador. Nothing dies.
Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing, Zach. I went to that one used movie store that I've told you about, and I was looking for it, and I actually found it wasn't just Starship Troopers, but it was the 2 direct-to-video sequels. And I think 3-pack for $3.33.
Starship Troopers 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
I've never seen 2 and 3.
Yep. Well, I've seen 2, but I've never seen 3. But actually, Casper Van Dien's character Rico returns in 3, if I remember correctly. Now, if you say you've never seen Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, we're gonna have some words, and you're not gonna like it.
I have not. No.
How the hell have you never seen the original War of the Worlds or the Day the Earth Stood Still?
Too old school for me.
I thought I knew you.
And I'll say this too, just to lower my stock price a little further. I have never seen the original black and white Clue. I've only seen the color converted version.
Of what?
Clue.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I imagine it came out in black and white, right?
No, it came out in color.
Oh, okay.
No, it was color. 1980s. It was full color. I cannot believe you've never seen Day the Earth.
No, and you know what else? I've never seen the remake either.
Don't. The only reason I own the remake with Keanu Reeves is because you get the original on the same disc. That's the only reason I have a copy of Day of the Earth Stood Still, the remake, is because you get the original. So I can't believe you've never seen.
Before we get off,
have you at least listened to the radio drama by Orson Welles?
No, but I'm familiar with it.
It's on YouTube.
People
for
were
free.
people were in hysteria. What did they kill themselves and crash their cars and shit?
That's why it was called the Panic in 1932, I think.
But
I
I wanted to throw a couple of barbs at the fucking Snow White actress here before we get off. I heard you mention it.
Yes, I've already said my piece. By all means, floor is yours.
Have you ever seen a worse PR ambassador for a film than her?
No,
It's pretty bad. No,
no, I have
mean,
not. Even, I'm not going to get into it, but no, I don't think I have. I honestly don't think I have. I said, here's the thing. I don't care what these actors and these actresses, how they feel and what they believe politically or socially. Just go in and do your job. Act. Just act. But when you are, okay, I don't know how you feel about the original. If you've ever seen it, if you haven't, that's fine, whatever. But there are some movies that are iconic and they are a treasure. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is iconic. It is a treasure. It is a legendary piece of cinema because it was the first feature-length animated film ever in history. Walt Disney had the brass balls to actually go that big and do what no one else thought could be done, and him and the artist ended up winning the Oscar for it. They won a whole slew of them for that movie.
The woman seems unhinged, dude. You hear her in interviews. You see her. She seems crazy, and it's really a bad career move because she has basically put a target on her own back, which is bizarre. It's like you see, not to get into the weeds here, okay, but I saw another quote that reminds me of this. Elliot Page, okay, said about Christopher Nolan some defamatory statement. It's like, why would you badmouth Nolan? Who the fuck is going to hire you? After that, for nothing, said I was uncomfortable on a set that contained a bunch of white men. What kind of a statement is that? That's what they said. So there you go.
And now
that's what Elliot Page said.
And now they are one.
That's so funny. But see, that's the kind of shit that doesn't make any sense to me. Who's going to hire you after this? That's the point. It's like nobody would ever hire you.
Rachel Ziegler has pretty much shot her whole damn career in the foot because stuff on the internet never goes away. Now, Gal Gadot, she may weather this okay and everything because she plays Evil Queen in this. But I'll tell you right now.
She'll be fine.
Yeah, Gal Gadot, she'll be fine. She's actually got a Netflix film that comes out, I think, in December called Heart of Stone. Actually looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Not gonna lie.
I like her.
It's a spy movie. She plays a spy, I think, or a secret agent or something, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think I've seen.
But Rachel Ziegler has done what? She did West Side Story. She had that small part in Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods.
Not a stellar resume. Yeah,
not West Side Story. It bombed at the theaters because no one cared. I know it was a passion project for Spielberg, and I respect him for wanting to do something he cared about. Fair enough.
He's semi-retired. He's not on the cutting edge.
He
doesn't need to be. He doesn't want to be.
No, he doesn't. And exactly. She got some accolades for her performance in the redo of West Side Story. Okay, fine, fair enough. But she has, all these comments about how dated and how weird some elements of the original Snow White and Seven Dwarf is, and how the story is being completely changed. And I'm thinking to myself, you are bashing a movie that means a great deal to legions of fans. The people who busted their asses to make sure it was right and got it out to theaters.
Yeah, not to mention the IP you're talking shit about is the only reason people are reporting your name in the headlines right now anyway. There would be
Yeah.
no Snow White remake without fucking Snow White.
Yeah, exactly. And I talked about this a little bit before you came in, and I don't mind bringing it up now. I have absolutely no interest to go see this movie. Me and Madam Ambassador, we completely passed on The Little Mermaid. Just no interest. And no, it's not because we're any type of ists or phobes or whatever. The original is fine as is. There does not need to be a remake. Now, there have been some of the remakes, I'll say this here, that I've actually enjoyed. I've talked about a couple of them on here, particularly Cruella. I enjoyed Cruella immensely.
But that's not a remake.
It isn't. Yeah, it's not a remake. It's almost like a prequel, in a manner of speaking.
It's a new story.
Yeah, Maleficent.
Another new take on it. That's what it is.
Yeah. And Angelina Jolie, she was. Now here's the thing. I will always love the animated version of Maleficent. I actually have a Funko Pop of her. I actually have a Funko Pop of her and her in the form of the dragon. We've actually got one of those Q figs up here on our movie cabinet of Maleficent in her dragon form from the original Sleeping Beauty. But Maleficent, the first one, I thoroughly enjoyed. Maleficent 2, it was okay. It wasn't horrible, but it was enjoyable. But some of they're going back, and even Beauty and the Beast. Me and Madam Ambassador went saw it in theaters, and we have it on home video, and we enjoyed it. Everything. I've never actually seen the original, but I may eventually. But you don't bash a movie that has a legacy as strong as Snow White does. It's not done.
I come at it from a different angle. I don't have any love in my heart for Snow White. I just cannot.
Fair enough.
Well, from the sidelines, I cannot believe the stupidity of somebody like her. I mean, it's really shocking. And by the way, I mean, it's pretty clear the movie will bomb as a result, probably primarily as a result of what she's been doing.
Well, it's not going to just be that, but they don't have dwarves. They have one dwarf.
Yeah,
and this movie is supposed to be called Snow White and the Seven. This movie is called Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and none of them.
Well, let me ask you this: is it more insensitive to remove dwarves and small people from cinema entirely, or to have them in there? That's ridiculous. I mean,
I think honestly, it's in terms of the story itself. In terms of the story itself, it is disrespectful to the actual narrative and to the story to not have 7 dwarves in this movie. They only got one.
Well, just have 0. Just have none. Have them all be fucking, whatever they would call it, able-bodied people. Able height.
Here's the crazy thing. I don't know if you ever watched it, but the series or anything, the ABC series Once Upon a Time, they did a better job adapting Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, and they made Snow White and the 7 Dwarves a bunch of badasses. And yeah, they were shorter stature guys. They weren't dwarves, but they were shorter stature, but they were still close enough to the actual spirit of the original characters that it worked. This, what are they going to do? CGI all of them? That's going to cost more money than just having cast dwarves as the actual dwarves.
Yeah, well, not to mention, I mean, there's not that many parts where you can hire. Am I allowed to say midget? Is that a banned word now too? It's like
I don't know if it's necessarily banned.
What is the term?
Dwarf.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's dwarf.
Okay. Well, there's not that many roles for people of that height out there. So you're taking a job away from people like Warwick Davis or whoever, or even the people who haven't had the chance. Even worse. I
Yeah.
mean, how many dwarf actors would like that opportunity?
Be,
Probably a lot.
yeah, exactly. Who wouldn't want to play Sneezy? Who wouldn't want to play Dopey? Who wouldn't play Doc? Who would play Grumpy or Happy or Sleepy or whatever? Who would want to? What dwarf actor or actress would want? I mean, I wouldn't even have necessarily a problem if they. Okay, it might be difficult for them to find 7 male dwarves that can act and do all these roles. Fair enough. I would not have a problem if they even cast a female dwarf as one of the dwarves, or more than one as one of the dwarves. But the fact that you only have one, it's a slap in the face to the original damn movie. Now, granted, the original movie is animated, so you can draw them. But when a ABC series can do a better job than a multi-million-dollar budgeted live-action film production can, that says something.
Yeah, well, it may say that the movie is like a false flag type film, or it was
It's a bait and
designed.
switch, is what it is.
Well, maybe it was designed to do some damage to the IP itself. I mean, who knows?
And why would they? That's the thing I don't get. Here's the thing. I am an old school Disney film. I grew up watching the original animated and live action Disney films and everything. Like the computer wore tennis shoes, or the horse in the gray flannel suit with Kurt Russell. Any of the old school, live action films, and even the old school animated films. I love the animated Robin Hood, where all the characters are animals, where Robin Hood is a fox and Maid Marian is a fox. Little John is a bear. I love those movies. Have I watched them in a long time? No, I haven't, but I still enjoy them. They're part of my childhood. They're part of a lot of people's childhoods. And they're movies that parents and grandparents show to their kids and grandkids even today. And for some snot-nosed little brat, and I'm being polite here, I'm trying to be polite here, some snot-nosed little upstart brat actress coming out and saying that Prince Charming is a stalker, they meet in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the blasted movie.
She's got no respect for the past, man. That's
no,
the problem.
She doesn't. She's just some like I said, I'm trying not to cuss here too much. She's some disrespectful snart-nosed brat who her ears are still wet. She's wet behind the ears. She's what they would call in the Old West a greenhorn. She's out of her depth. She's out of her league, and she ain't careful. If it isn't too late, she ain't gonna have no more career, because what studio is gonna want to hire an actress who disparages the production that she's working on, or disparages the source material of the production that she's working on?
It never works.
She is a PR nightmare. Her agent was probably screaming at the top of his or her lungs, "Rachel, shut the hell up."
Well, I think eventually we'll have a film that has all destroyed career actors. We'll have Amber Heard. We'll have her. We'll have Ezra Miller. Maybe they'll band together. The misfit, the Hollywood psychos.
No, better. The League of Has-Been Actors and Actresses.
Absolutely.
and you name 3 of them:
Maisie
Ezra
Ridley,
Miller, Rachel Ziegler,
we'll throw her.
and Amber
Brie
Heard.
Larson. Brie Larson will throw in there too.
Yes and no.
No, she's in there. Brie Larson is in there.
Hell, either way.
Captain Marvel is not a film for white guys. It's like, okay. All right. See, that's racism. I don't give a fuck, and I don't care. Here's the thing. I really don't care.
Zach, it's not racism, it's sexism. Big difference.
No, the term white is included. So it's both.
Well, either way, white. She's sexist / racist, whatever.
Well, you're inserting you're inserting your weird, creepy political agenda into it, and I don't like films that include a Republican agenda either. So it's not like I'm playing sides.
Yeah,
I'm not a fucking
I'm
Republican.
I prefer my movies and my entertainment to be apolitical, no political context.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as much of a thing if all the commentators who were right about this shit were not hardcore Republicans. That's true. I mean, that's absolutely true. The Geeks and Gamers guys, all those guys, hardcore Trump supporting Republicans, which provides the people on the other side with the ammunition to invalidate them, even though they're right on a lot of this shit. Anyway, I've said my piece.
Yeah. I have too. So, well, everybody, thank you all for tuning in this evening. I hope you enjoyed the stream. As always, make sure you hit the like button, comment down below anything that me or Zach or the chat brought up that you might want to comment on. Like I mentioned, tomorrow night, me and Mammon Bastard and this guy over here, we'll be back live with the finale for the Hunger Games streams or anything discussing Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2, of course, at 8:30 Central Time. So make sure you hit that reminder or that notification bell. Make sure you follow me on my socials. That's, of course, Twitter or X. I still call it Twitter. I'll probably call it Twitter till I'm old and gray. Do you remember when X was Twitter? It was a little blue bird and not an X, and you didn't think you were clicking onto a triple X website?
It's still twitter.com. Elon Musk.
It is. That's the crazy thing. It is. So
no, I bet you he can't get x.com. I bet that it is already a thing.
It probably, yeah, you're probably right. So, but anyways, folks, thank you all for being here this evening. And Zach, thank you for being here this evening. But
thanks, man. I had a good time.
Good conversation as always. So, all right, everybody. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night. As always, stay ambassadorial. That means be respectful, be kind, above all, be yourself. Never take yourselves too seriously. If you do all those things, you will always have a place. Ambassadorial Wing. Good night, everybody.